Hey, Adam, welcome to Paper Napkin Wisdom. Thrilled you could join me here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
So, you shared with me a really interesting paper napkin, and I'd like you to read it out loud for everyone listening, please.
Sure. My paper napkin says, hire great people and then get the heck out of the way.
Okay, so why did you share that with me?
I think in my career, the biggest lesson I have learned to date is that if you hire great people, you have to let them be great and do the things that make them great. That is not following your every direction and micromanaging their every activity. If you're going to invest the money to get a talent, you need to let a talent be a talent, not be an extension of you. It doesn't work for me. It hasn't worked for me, and I've had situations where people have left because in the past because I haven't unlocked their full potential. So I've found my job over the year. My job description has changed from do everything and make it happen to help great people be successful. And that's, I'd boil that down to get the heck out of the way.
Yeah, and I think that, a lot of people have a lot of problems with this, right? I mean, I think this is not easy to do because you're not saying don't support them, don't give structure, don't give leadership, right? You're not saying be absent.
Absolutely. It is set the vision, give them the resources they need to be successful, and then get the heck out of the way. I mean, of course, it's check in and monitor, but I want to tell folks where we need to be, but I don't want to tell great people how we need to get there. That's really why they're here. They're great at figuring out, draw the map. I'll show you the dot we need to hit, and then let's work together on the map. But you go execute that. I'm here to help you be successful and make your plan.
So so again, I think this is really important. You're saying where to go, but not how to get there. But how do you do accountability as part of that? Where does how do you manage that when you're getting the heck out of the way?
Well, if the approach I've learned to take is give your team the opportunity to create their plan. I mean, psychologically, if someone gives me a plan that they've built and they say, go do this, I will go do it, but I'm not nearly as invested in that as if the person I'm accountable for, my board as an example, says, okay, Adam, tell me how you're going to get there. You build the plan. We trust you to go build that plan. It's the same thing I'll do with our key folks. I trust you, right? Implicit trust. You're here because I trust you. Here's where we need to go. Come back and tell me how you think we should get there. And if you need my input on that, let's talk about it. We're going to check in and agree, but the plan's yours. So then if we don't hit the plan, it's not an emotional response of me saying, I'm not happy with your performance on my plan. The accountability, if you've hired the right people, is, hey, Adam, I'm having some trouble making the plan that I created. Let's talk about how we change that. It's psychologically, it's a completely different dynamic.
I really get that. So let's talk about Adam before you had learned this lesson and Adam after. What did that look like? What did your company look like before you learned to get out of the way?
Well, it was a previous company. I learned this lesson the hard way. And so like many others, I would have considered myself an accidental entrepreneur with my first business, where I was that person great at the craft I was doing, right? I was the doer and I was great at doing it. And I found myself surrounded by 30 people, but I was still doing it. And we had a great high growth business, but I was doing it. And, when the last downturn hit 08, 09, what you find is if you don't have the support and the scale within your team where everybody is out trying to hit a plan, it's just you pulling all the strings, you're really a house of cards. I learned it the hard way. People left. Things got tough. There wasn't a whole lot of ownership. because I hadn't given people the opportunity to own their own results. And it was a tough lesson, quite frankly. And as I would describe it, there's a transition that had to happen between, me being the star contributor, right, the rainmaker, and then me helping other people be rainmakers or be stars. And that transition was a critical one, right? So when I ended up selling that business and starting this one, the current business, Hireology, and this was a business by design. This was one where I said, okay, on day one, we're setting out core values, and one of the core values is own the result. And I set this business up this time by design, based on lessons learned in the last one. Among them, I am never going to be the person on the process where it says, and then Adam does ... I want to coach and manage, and I really need to take myself out of the workflow. And it took a little longer, but it ultimately is a much more scalable business.
And I think that really interesting in that is that you talked about designing the business. And I think many times when entrepreneurs start businesses or take over businesses, they're engineering products or they're engineering services, but they're not engineering the company that's delivering that with a structure. And you're talking about core values, talking about systems, you're talking about people, all of those things, all those structural elements that are necessary in order to support getting out of the way. Because otherwise, like you said, it's a house of cards. It's a shell game, and you're just running around, moving things around constantly, and that's kind of exhausting, isn't it?
It is, and it's stressful because when you're first getting started, what I've found is your core values are your operating system. Before you figure out all the process, the values are your operating system. They're the true north. They're your guidepost. And so when you've got a company necessarily full of utility players in the early days, before you need specialists, you just need people to play whack-a-mole as you grow the thing in the early days. The core values are the compass and the operating system. And I found that if I coach and manage to core values, I don't have to tell people how to do their job. They figure out how to do their job and get it done within the context of the core values of the company. So we've done that. This time we've done that since day one. The founding team, before we wrote the business plan, wrote the core values, and that has made all the difference this time.
This company versus the previous company. When you started the previous company, how long did your first hire stay with you? As a measure, right? I mean, when you think about starting the company and just running around and doing that in a manner that wasn't supportive and structured, that didn't promote structure so you could get out of the way, versus now you've built the business from the ground up with the intention of it having structure and support, and really engineered the business around the tenets of the core values. How many of those people are with you? So compare and contrast those two experiences.
It's a great question. First employee in the last business made it about 18 months, and did not grow professionally. I think part of it was I wasn't as good at selection, perhaps, or defining the outcomes I wanted. It was basically every week or every month, hey, do these things, right? And it was very tactical, and everybody got burnt out. It just didn't work, and ultimately ended up with us parting ways, and this just wasn't working. Contrast with this business where our first employee, outside of the founding team, is now our VP of sales 4 years later. Is managing the largest line item in the budget from a labor standpoint. It's got 22 direct reports. That'll be 50 in 6 months, hitting his numbers, beating his numbers. And I have not told him one time how to do what he's doing. He's figured it out. And that was, again, it was by design. We haven't had at a leadership team position, the 5 people on our leadership team have been here for 3 years or more, zero turnover. We got zero turnover. Our turnover rate in our organization is under 10%.
Other Recently, I've been spending a lot of time talking about the notion of predictable leadership. That predictable leadership is predictable success. And people actually want their leaders to be predictable, saying the same things, being consistent, being almost repetitive to support them. And when they are supported in that way, they achieve unbelievable results. And that's kind of what you're saying, right? I mean, that you've created the structure where they're getting the same sort of support from you consistently. You've engineered it so that the core values are the structure of all of that, and they've responded. And this first hire now has gone on to now lead a team of 22 and talk about the career development path that this person's on. Unbelievable, right?
Yeah, and I like the way you describe that. I mean, if you keep changing the rules on people, they become afraid to try anything different because they think they're going to get hit over the head in a meeting. Where if the rules are consistent, you give clear direction on the parameters, right? I expect you, whatever happens, do it with our core values, pathological optimism. In the face of daunting odds, if you can't tell me you think you're going to be able to get this done, we shouldn't be doing it, right? So rule number 1, believe in your own plan. Rule number 2, own the result. So believe in the plan, but then you have to own it. Okay. And those are the two things that we talk about. So we come back to, all right, look, what I do is say, what you're saying to me, this is the plan. You believe in this. Yes. Okay. Are you prepared to own it? Yes. Great. Go do it. And tell me how I can be helpful, and let's check in. And then, the other core values in our business, verbatim, and you may have to bleep me out here, but is no assholes. That's a value, and we live it. That follows through to our customers, and it follows through to the folks on the team. So, if I don't have a sales manager talking to me afraid to say, I think we should fire this customer because they're treating our people like crap, I will always say, look, we've got a no assholes core value. If you don't think we should be working with this customer because they treat people disrespectfully, guys, walk away. It's not worth it. I would never have done that in my last business. It was all about, well, there's a lot of revenue. And here now the rule's consistent. If a customer's treating us disrespectfully, no amount of money's worth that. Let's go work with people we want to work with. You're empowered to make those decisions. That's the kind of stuff that makes a difference. And I don't have to get pulled into every decision where people are afraid to say what they want to say. If they think that's the right call, they'll make it, and I'm fully supportive of that.
I think that's really, really powerful message. Now, one of the things that people are going to say, right? They're listening, and I know they're going to say it. They're going to say, "Yeah, well, the second time out, you had an exit, you had more money, you paid a lot more for this first hire in the second company than you did for the first company. You just got a better person."
It's not true. That's not true. We actually pay no more than before. The difference is people believed in it, right? So the conversation was about investing in something bigger than us and creating something of value together. And this is the way we're going to do that. And look, I know you could go get a job across the street for twice as much money. And if you decide you want to do that, I'm happy for you. I'm going to cheer you out the door because that's great. Congratulations. But if it ever comes to that, I'm going to feel like I let you down because we're building something that's going to be worth a lot more than the investment you're making in maximum current compensation. And if I'm doing my job correctly, I'm delivering that for you. And you feel like the value trade is a good one. If you ever feel like that value trade is not a good one or it's imbalanced, I'd like for you to talk to me about it. And if I can't make it right, I'm going to do what I can to help you land somewhere where you feel more balanced. That kind of, we talk about that all the time, openly. People, it's not a bad thing to speak up and say, this isn't working for me here. We expect it.
To own it, right?
That's exactly right. Own the result, but own your own experience here. I can't help you if you don't tell me you need help. So I expect you to speak up and own your own experience here, which is a concept I know you and I have talked a lot about over the years.
So I think that's so simple and powerful, and it really dispels this notion that it's all about compensation. It really isn't. It's all about structure and support and career development and purpose and being part of something that's bigger than us. And in fact, let's face it, that's what you and I want. Well, I mean, that's what the entrepreneurs and leaders want too. We don't want it to just be about this little shell that we're in right now.
It's about expectation management. So here's when people get burned, they feel burned when you sell them something that doesn't happen. And so I give a speech to every person that comes in up until the last couple of months, where really I think we finally figured out what we're doing here, right? The how we're figuring out. But I would say, again, to the first hire, here's this little soapbox I gave him. I said, look, I know you're leaving a job where you've been the top producer every year for as long as you've been there. And you're coming here and there's a lot of uncertainty. I've built a comp plan here that I think gives you the right kind of incentive, but I'm going to make you a promise right now. I promise you I've screwed this up. I have no idea what our products are going to be priced at in 6 months. We don't really know. This is my best guess. But, two promises. One, I've probably blown it. And 6 months in, we're going to realize this comp plan isn't right. But two, I promise you I'm going to make it right as soon as we figure it out. And sure enough, 6 months in, it's like, you know what? This is not working. It's not going to produce the result that I had promised you. But like I said, we're going to make it right. So let's make it right. And that avoided all of the fear I had of an entrepreneur, not knowing any of the answers. I just tell people now I have no idea what's going to happen, but I promise you we're going to do the right thing. But then we do it.
Yeah. So here's something that's really powerful in what you're saying is you're actually upfront in the hiring meeting, being vulnerable and open about the fact that you don't have all the answers, that you haven't figured this out, and you've probably gotten this wrong. Right? Is that what you're saying to me?
That is correct.
And with that vulnerability, what came out of it?
Well, look, you earn trust. People, I think, appreciate it. I appreciate it. And I also expect that. If I expect that of others, they should expect that of me. So if I expect people to speak up, I need to speak up. And if I expect people to take risk, I should take that risk. And leadership to a certain extent is honesty and vulnerability. And it's saying, look, I don't know. I can give you my best guess as to what's going to happen. It's going to be different, but I'm going to make it right because I trust you, and you're here because I trust you. So that's the whole basis of everything we do now, and that's what I've learned my role to be.
I think it's one of the most eye-opening things to me as part of Paper Napkin Wisdom has been to understand truly that every leader who has a team, we hear this so often. Oh, I've been so lucky in my life to surround myself with people who are better than me. And that's the secret of my success. But nobody talks about how to do that. People say, oh, that's the result of my success. I've got these great people around me. But how do you get those people? How do you become that leader? And vulnerability is, I think, the cornerstone of that. And you just talked about that, right? Would that be one of the big differences between company one and company two too, that you were open about not knowing all the answers going in?
Well, yeah. I mean, I was, company one, first time through, like many first time entrepreneurs, was afraid to admit that I had no idea what I was doing. You don't want to ever admit it. You don't want to, guys, I don't know. I have no idea what I'm doing. I was gripping it white knuckled, trying to control everything. And it just imploded on itself. It doesn't work. If I want to grow and scale a business and create real economic value, on day one, I have to let go of just about everything other than the vision and the values. and I was trying to control everything before. It doesn't work. Great people don't want to be led that way. They just don't. It's no fun.
And it's dishonest. At the end of the day, it's just flat out dishonest. Saying that you know the answer when you're scared to death and you just don't is dishonest.
We had a town hall. So another thing we do here is we do a monthly town halls where people can ask whatever they want. And people go there and people ask questions like, hey, XYZ is happening. Are you worried that we're building the wrong products? Are you worried that competitor A is catching up? And I will say every day, yes, I do. And if we don't execute, they will catch us and we will get beaten. That will happen. But I'll take that bet, guys, because look at this team. I will take that bet. And the reason people have invested in us is not because of me. It's because of the team we've built. They expect us to execute. And I believe execution is the competitive barrier. It's not money and it's not ideas. It's execution. And we're going to out-execute everybody else in our business. And that's how we win. Anybody can waste a bunch of money. We're going to out-execute everybody.
Yeah, I really firmly believe that companies lose, but teams win. Teams win. Great teams held together by great leadership. And Adam, thank you for sharing your paper napkin wisdom, because I think it's so great. I know our time is up here today, but I'm hoping I can drag you back again. What do you think?
Anytime.
Thanks, man.
You got it.
Hey, if you liked that episode, there's a ton more like it on iTunes. Just search Paper Napkin Wisdom. Go to papernapkinwisdom.com to find the blog and pictures of all of the paper napkins. Plus, you can also follow along on Facebook, find Paper Napkin Wisdom, on Twitter at WiseNapkin. My name is Govind Jayaraman. This is Paper Napkin Wisdom. Thanks for watching. Make it a great day.